Hi, everyone, and welcome to the I Am Landscape Growth Podcast, where entrepreneurs help entrepreneurs grow faster, better, and stronger in the green industry. From leadership to sales to recruiting and operational excellence, we cover the topics holding entrepreneurs back and share how to get past those bottlenecks with the best in the industry. I'm your host, Rob Murray, co founder and CEO of Intrigue, a digital marketing company focused on helping landscape companies grow. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the I Am Landscape Growth Podcast. Very special episode today. We have an amazing guest, bias, I guess. Paul DeMarco, co-founder of Intrigue, joining us today. Thank you, Paul, for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me, Robert.
All right. Well, in like true, landscape growth podcast fashion, you got to give the audience a bit of a rundown of like where you come from and what you're up to today. It's just they have an understanding of like, your perspective and where it comes from.
Yeah, so my name is Paul. I co-founded Intrigue with Rob as a project in 2006, and almost 20 years later, we're still here on the entrepreneurial journey, having some fun. Yeah, we're from Ontario. I came to Guelph for university, specialized in marketing, and that's where I met Rob with this big straw hat on the first day of university. Yeah, we started this company as a project in school in our third year, putting up TVs in places and letting them fall off walls because we didn't know how to install them properly. and yeah, I mean that's kind of like the background of the business side of things and where it all began. And then have my wife Lauren and my two little ones, River and William. They keep me busy when I'm not hanging out in these four walls.
All right, cool. So then, what's your core focus at Intrigue, and like, what are you dealing with on a day to day?
Yeah, right now, core focus is client results. So I'm trying to lead our ads team on making sure that we're getting the best results for our clients, getting them the most value for the money that they're spending with us. Working with our SEO team to make sure that we're building the best stuff from when it comes to backlinks and content, to make sure that we're ranking in Google. And then lately, I've been working a bunch on the data infrastructure inside of Intrigue. So centralizing all of our data into a platform called Datorama, so we can see all of the landscaping clients all in one spot, and we can benchmark, website conversion rates. We can benchmark cost per lead, cost per qualified lead, return on investment, and start to see like, okay, where are clients above the benchmark and crushing? Where are they below? And how can we learn from what's crushing to bring it to the rest of our clients? So just trying to do everything we can to make sure we're bringing the most value every day to all of these, over 100 plus landscape clients that we're working with these days.
Boom. So we talked a little bit about what we're going to talk about before we started talking about it today. And you kind of brought up this cool topic around like partnerships and like what makes a good partner or partnership, relationship, whatever it might be. And from a business context, for the record, mind you, there's probably a lot of crossover in terms of personal relationships. Actually, now I'm just thinking about it in my head as I say it out loud. I think there's probably a ton that are very similar. And so last year in November, as we were running like our strategic planning, like annual cadence, and so at Intrigue, we meet weekly as a leadership team, quarterly for a full day, and then annually for a full day, sometimes 2 days. A couple of things kind of came from it in November, and one of them. I mean, this isn't really matter to the audience unless this does apply to your fiscal year and the calendar year. But we realized that November is probably a bad time of year for us to plan annually, because then we recap what we've done and then change what we're going to do to make it better, and then we go into what would be our busy season. We talk about all the time when you guys are planting, you guys being the audience of landscapers, when you're planning, we're working, and when you're planting, we're in like management mode, so we're not really doing all the onboarding that we normally do during the busy season. But the reason I bring it up is because we kind of look back at the year, and we've transformed the company from like a local marketing company, jack of all, master of none, Essentially, like, let's work with everybody we can within a reasonable driving distance and try to figure out all the Rubik's cubes that come along with all the different business models. Becoming really focused on helping landscape entrepreneurs in North America. And so we were like, okay, well, what do people really care about? And so we're in, you could argue year 18, you could argue year 19, depending on when you start a business. Is it in market research phase or is it revenue phase? But whatever, you could say we're a better part of 20 years. And working with thousands of entrepreneurs, all shapes and sizes, we kind of came up with this idea that, like, when someone hires us, they want more customers and they want to know what's going on. So results and communication were kind of at the ethos or the essence of where we think, or we thought and have experienced clients, perceive value with their relationship with us. And so we're going to, talk about this idea of partnerships, but I just want to get your take on, well, first of all, that now that we've been doing this and we've changed the way we've approached things, how's it been going from your side of things? And what does it mean, just to give context to the audience?
Like, how have the results and communication been?
Yeah, well, results and communication, like, we've changed the way we do our work. We've changed what we deliver. We've changed the way we communicate with our clients. And so somebody who's been at the helm of, hey, things aren't working, and you get like flagged this year and last year, what's the difference? Like, how's it been going for you? And then what is the difference? Like, what's the change we made, just so the audience knows?
Yeah, well, there's a couple pieces to it. So fundamentally, the way that we build websites has changed. Like, and that's changed results, client experience, and communication. So historically, we built websites, over a 3 to 6 month period, where you're just, like, you're kind of pathing the ball from one department to another. So it's like someone does a session at the beginning to gather all this information, and then we design the site, and then we write all the content, and then we build all of this out. And there's lots of different communication points throughout that journey, and often it took 3 to 6 months to build it. This past year, we moved everything into that, like, sprint models coming out of, like, the methodology from Scrum, which is just a book called Scrum that's used a lot in like SaaS, like software development, where we would build websites in a week and make it so that the team working on that site had nothing else that they were focusing on for that week except for building that one website. So, and then we had multiple teams that were building sites, so we could build up to 3 websites at a time with these 3 different teams. Well, from a results perspective, from a client experience perspective and a communication perspective, it went up considerably, because we got some okay feedback about our website process in the past, but generally it was painstaking for everybody. Like, it was a lot of pain to go through the process for ourselves, for the client. It was just where is this project at? And there's just a lot of constant
out over a period of time.
Yeah, it was an okay experience at best, for everybody. And then this year, moving it into these sprints, well, one, our team is very happy because they can focus on one project, take it from, concept to live in, a week to, maybe 2 weeks, depending on the size of the project. But our client experience has gone through the roof. And we can just see it from, like, the feedback that we get, and even the reviews that we get so much earlier in the relationship, because people are just thrilled with the fact that their website was just starting and now it's already live in a matter of a week, versus what could be up to 6 months. We've had websites go 12 months, depending on how involved the client needs to be and if it's e-commerce and all this stuff, right? So, and that's, like, pretty good in industry, to have a website done in 3 to 6 months compared to what we hear out there. So that piece has been a big improvement, from a communication side, but then also results side, because it's in market faster. We're getting traction in Google quicker. Typically, we see conversion rates go up when we build a website. It's one of the big reasons people build websites with us. So if their conversion rate sits, at, like, between, like, 0 and 2%, like, that's how, like, from all the leads that they're getting like 0 to 2% of them are actually, or, like, traffic that they're getting to their website. That's how many turn into leads. We usually see it bump up to 3 to 5%, which might not sound like a big increase, but it's, like, often 100 to 200% increase. So the results start to come in much, much quicker. That minor change, which is also a bit of a major change in terms of, like, the whole way we work, has impacted results in a good way in client experience. And then the other really cool thing is we've been able to from an ad side, take all of this learning across all of these different accounts and be able to bring it to everybody. So if we find something that works somewhere really, really well, we can be like, cool, this is working really well here. Let's try it on a couple of accounts. Yes, it's working well here. Okay, let's roll it out across the entire suite of clients. Whereas before, if we had clients in all these different industries, that wouldn't necessarily apply, but in this instance, it very much does. So I'd say that we're even in a softer market, that we're seeing in 2025 versus 2024, and which was even stronger in 2023. We're still seeing lead flow and like cost per leads and cost per qualified leads inside of what we had promised to our clients, because we're making the dollars just much more efficient than we ever could in the past, because we know it's working and we can help bring those results to different people.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure it does. And there was a couple of things I want to touch on though. Okay, I'll come back to the philosophical approach in a second, but from somebody who's watching results for landscapers and for landscapers that are listening to this thing, what is working? Like, what is driving leads?
Yeah, well, there's two like big pieces that there's many facets to this whole thing. So starting at the very top of the funnel is getting traffic to the site. So we get traffic to the site in a couple different ways. One is ads and one is through organic and Google. So from an ad side of things, the one thing that's working is trying to capture the high intent keyword searches. It can be challenging in Google to have you show up for the right things and only the right things, because Google is trying to make a bunch of money, and so they're trying to show your ads for everything under the sun. And not without going into too much detail, there's different match types. As much as you try to make it so that you only show up for landscape design company near me, often even if you're bidding on that, you'll show up for a lot of other things even though we don't want to. So on our side, the thing that's working the most is trying to make it so that we're utilizing budgets as best as possible. And what we usually find is that when we go in to audit an account, it's pretty broad in terms of like what people are spending their money on. So people think that they might be spending money on landscape design company near me, but they're actually spending money on landscape design ideas. Right. And they might be burning 50% of their budget on that term. But unless you're like buried inside of like Google Ads, which is a labyrinth in and of itself, you don't know where to look to find that information. Yeah, and Google only gives you a small percentage of the actual search term data. So maybe it's like 20% of the actual search term data that you get access to. So they're not as transparent as you would certainly like them to be, and they're getting less and less transparent. But we often see the biggest issue is that budget is being wasted on search terms that aren't driving high quality traffic. And so that's what's working for us, is making it so that we're trying to utilize that budget as good as possible, and then also not necessarily showing up for like competitive terms. So again, we don't bid on any competitors, but the way that Google's algorithm works is that if you're searching for landscape design company near me, I'll just use that to keep that same example.
Yeah.
Someone searches Paul's landscaping or Paul's landscape design, and boom, all of a sudden my ad's showing up and I'm paying. Sometimes it can be like $30 a click, for that term, which makes me want to vomit. And when you see that, because it's like robbery from Google, because clearly they're not a good match. Like I didn't want to pay $30 for Paul's landscape design. It's not what my intent was. But fighting with Google's like just fighting with the wall. So it's not really worth fighting with them about it. So we have to make it so that it's used as efficient as possible, because a lot of money could be wasted. So Google Ads, the search campaigns, and then they also have these Performance Max campaigns, which tend to complement quite well. Like they don't work really well on their own, but actually having more display ads in market, we find that we can see like between like a 15 to 30% lift in search conversions if we're running those campaigns with it. But sometimes you kind of have to take the bad with the good on that. So you might get some like spammy leads through, but you still get good leads. So that's like the ad side of things. From the organic side of trying to show up inside of Google search, still the same old strategy, for lack of a better term, works, which is give people good, valuable content. Like even in the advent of AI, like if we're writing a 3,000 word guide on everything you need to know about landscape design in Massachusetts, then that's going to be a good piece of valuable content that's going to help you rank in Google. And there might be some AI tied to like helping us build the framework for this thing, but we're still not seeing many competitors writing that detailed content. So no doubt that continuing to write good quality content is going to help, and then complemented with communicating to your audience, like taking that content, bringing it into email, bringing it into social, and then backlinks are still something that tends to work well. So being able to take that article and have it linked in different places throughout the internet. It's a weird strategy because it doesn't really drive a lot of like actual organic traffic, but Google tends to give a higher authority to websites that have more backlinks, which overall lifts the website in rank, which innately brings in more people to the top of the funnel. So that's getting people to the site, and then beyond that, now that they're on the site, like what's converting them. So there's a lot that goes into a landing page here. We've got like a 27-point checklist of all the things that we want as best practice to be on a landing page to get somebody to convert. So there's lots of different pieces around that. But ultimately, it's like giving people the right information when they get to the right page. It's making sure that we're talking about them and not us. So like we weave in our why, like our clients, we weave in their why, like what do they care about most? But we really want to make it about the actual person who's reading and trying to relate to their problems as much as possible. And we find that if we can do that and also talk about our clients, passions and why they do what they do every day, that combination with like little things of having calls to action above folds in the right places can increase conversion rate, 100 to 200 to 300%. So driving the traffic, converting the traffic, and then nurturing that traffic. So once somebody actually does inquire, making sure we've got amazing conversion tracking set up so we can tell exactly, Rob Murray inquired. They inquired on the landscape design page. They first came from a Google ad, then they came back organically. They searched landscape design company near me, and now they're in the CRM. They're in a proposal stage. The quote value is $60,000, and we can see all that in the system. So being able to kind of see from start of the journey into closing of the journey makes results really matter because we can actually see every layer of the funnel.
And dollars. Like, that's cool. I think you did a pretty good job trying to summarize it because there's so much associated to it. So then just as a quick tip then for people listening, you talk about the idea of landscape design company near me. What's another one or two examples of like a high intent, high value keyword that you're seeing in all these ad accounts?
I mean, we see a lot on like landscape construction contractor, landscape construction company. It depends on the type of job someone's trying to get. So if you're trying to get more of like the design build job,
100,000 plus.
Yeah, we find that people that are actually searching things like landscape design and build Toronto, landscape design and build Atlanta, like those are good keywords that have really high intent, especially if it's like landscape design and build company. Anything that has to do with like landscaping company near me starts to like come down a little bit because somebody's intent might be for a design and build, but their intent also might be for their lawn to be mowed. So once you start to move to something that's a little bit more generic, we start to find we get more leads that are more generic, and a little bit maybe not the lead that somebody wants. And then if we bid on things like landscaping ideas or landscape design ideas, then we're really getting traffic that we don't want. So landscape construction company, landscape design and build company, landscape design near me, and then including the geography. And then some like fringe things like retaining walls are interesting. So if someone's looking for like an armor stone retaining wall, that can sometimes lead to a good lead to because someone's like in the landscape design build process. And then like custom outdoor kitchens plus geography, another one that leads to good jobs.
Cool. All right, so let's go a bit more philosophical for a quick second. You talked a lot about how like this data aggregation initiative that we've been on for quite a while is helping us understand like what to expect in terms of like what we can promise people. So this whole idea of results in the way that we work with our clients is really tied to expectations. If we agree on paper for services and money based on a result that we predict, the expectation of that result is on us essentially to be like, this is what we think we can do. And it sounds like based on what you've been working on and what I've been experiencing on a daily basis, that's getting a lot tighter. And then there was this other thing about websites being done quickly. And sometimes actually when we present this to people, they don't even necessarily believe us because they've, built a site for a year before. But then we get it done in like the first 4 weeks of them working with us because we said, hey, you're slotted in on the week of whatever, and you're going to get, we're going to do the information session to gather whatever before, and then we're going to do the thing, and then it'll be live. And then it happens and people are really happy. Just talk to us a little bit about like the value of a partnership from your point of view with regard to like expectation setting and how important that is to be clear.
Like for our clients, you mean?
Well, I mean, that is the point of the question, but I do believe this does stem into every part of life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I'll start with the client piece because like for us, the biggest thing that, I think 5 or 6 years ago, we talked about like, what's the one thing that we can do that will have more impact on our business and our clients' success than anything else. And the idea was, well, if we can predict the result of our work within a 5% margin, that would be the bee's knees. Like if we can do that, that's really going to make our client experience amazing. It's going to make our sales process better because we can actually go and predict the future for the people and what to expect. And so we've been on a big journey, trying to make that happen. And one of the things that we do is we legit predict the future. So when we go to sign on a new client, we do our research, and based on like what we see in our suite of clients and what we see as what's happening in that market that landscaping company is in, we say, hey, we think that based on everything we see, there's our cost per lead prediction for you is going to be X, and our cost per qualified lead prediction is going to be Y, and that's the promise we make. So now we're on the hook to deliver on that, to your point, but I don't know a way that we could be more clear in terms of expectation setting. And so I think that promise is just really huge, because if we make that expectation, we can live by that expectation. And if we're beating it, awesome. Most of the time, everybody's happy. If we're not beating it, well, then, we'll do whatever we can in our power to move the needle in that direction. So from a client side, I mean, making that clarity and expectation just goes a long way. And it also goes the same way with the website. It's like, hey, your website is going to be built on this week. We are going to go live on this date. Full clarity. Whereas before, it's like, this is a 90-day process. It might go longer. It might not. Your website live date is undetermined. It's just a lack of clarity, which just causes friction, because if there's no expectations, no clarity, people can start to go into this like that mum effect, right? Of just like creating these bad ideas in their head about what's actually happening on the other side. Whereas if we can create that clarity and communication and those expectations, then typically it leads to a much healthier relationship. So yeah, I mean, that's like the client side. When it comes to like any relationship, it's kind of the same way. Like I think about our relationship and, having clear expectations of each other. It's been, like we said, I don't know, 18, 19 years so far, having clear expectations of each other as a partnership. And it hasn't always been, sunshine and rainbows. Like we've had our challenges, but having that communication with each other has been like absolutely vital to creating this friendship and partnership. But having that communication space is also really important. Like the fact that we're going for dinner, like, the two of us will spend 4 to 5 hours a week together and, break bread, try to do it once a week. When Rob's flying all over the place, it's a little bit more challenging to do that. But when we're here, just
probably
making
35, 40 weeks a year, something like that.
Yeah, like significant amount of time, right? So into thinking about how it stems to all these other relationships, like how many people do that with their spouse every week? Like I can't even say that I do that. I spend more time having dinner with you than I do her, which is kind of crazy. But that space for us has been the glue, I think, of our partnership, and just having that space to talk every week and and constantly being able to share the expectations of each other and having that communication spaces. It's been the thing that's made the thing healthy.
Yeah, for sure. And there was one, just for the audience listening, like, I don't know what it was, but at one point in the business, we were both doing everything. Like, you were doing cold calls, I was hanging upside down, hanging TVs. Like, we were both making videos, we were both talking to clients. Like, we were literally both doing everything. And then at one point, I think we were just, okay, you know what, Rob, you do sales and I'll do ops. So you make the promises, I'll keep them. And then we'll just make sure we're lockstep in terms of how we go about doing that. And it's kind of like grown, it's like graduated to a whole other level, but that's still kind of the relationship, which is kind of cool. So one of the things you're talking about there with regard to like a healthy relationship is the idea around expectations, and you implied it, but like, the idea of doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, which creates integrity and trust. And in terms of what we're doing, and if somebody's listening to this, they're like, well, my current marketing partner doesn't necessarily approach it that way, whatever. But if you were to talk to somebody who's maybe not satisfied with their current relationship, whether it's marketing themselves, marketing with a team member, marketing with a company, what would be one or two things that you'd recommend that they like either broach the topic, look into, like, what can they do to make it better?
I wouldn't, but like, I think
no,
I
know.
I think the number one thing I would recommend somebody to look for is a tool to be able to understand what's working, because like, you might think that things aren't working, but maybe they are, and it's hard to know that, right? So yeah, like there's some great conversion tracking tools. Like, we have one that we call Salt, that it's like our sales and lead tracking system. Like Hyros is another one that's like attribution tracking. But these tools will make it so that, like, for like very little work, you can have them on your site, and then you can see what marketing is working or not working. So I feel like that's one thing I would want to know if I was going in, just be like, hey, well, is your marketing agency or company doing good work? Well, the first thing I would do is go put that tool on my site to be like, okay, is this thing, like, are the ads working?
Or yeah, and for the record, anybody listening to this, if you go to intriguemedia.com/track, you can get a tool like this set up for 4 months, the way Paul's explaining. Just anybody, if you're curious, intriguemedia.com/track.
Yeah, so like, that would create the transparency, because then you're going to see, okay, how many leads am I getting from my marketing efforts? Are they coming from my Google ads, my Facebook ads, my social media posts, my Google organic? And then you can start to see those customer journeys. And also, you can put in your sales value, so you can kind of like have the whole thing cycle back. But I think that the number one thing I would do would be to track that information, because like, people use Google Analytics, or GA4 as people call it, but like, you don't get that level of transparency when it comes to tracking. So number one thing is to get the data right, so you can understand what's working, or if your current stuff is working.
Yeah, well, I think it makes a lot of sense, because like, we've had clients come to us and be like, I'm not satisfied with this, and then we would take like a data dump from their CRM and then reconcile it with the tool you're referring to, and then we'd be like, oh, okay, you've got like a $1.8 million in revenue from a $100,000 investment.
Sounds pretty good to me.
It's kind of working. Like, where else can you spend $100,000 and make 1.8 million? And gross margin, sure, call it 40%. So cut it in half and a bit. But you're still looking at like 800,000 on 100K. If I have an investment opportunity like that, I would do it again and again and again.
Yeah, no doubt.
And again.
I mean, the other thing I think would be insightful for people to look at would be like, ask your agency for a search terms report. So go to Google, like, ask for a Google Ads search terms report over the last 90 days and be like, okay, like, hear me out that it doesn't give you all of the information, which is frustrating to no end, but it gives you a flare of like, okay, here's what I'm getting my clicks on. And like, this is a battle that we're always fighting here. So I'm not saying that because it doesn't look perfect, it's not good, because it's, Google changes their algorithm all the time, and one day what's working amazing, tomorrow it's not. One day you're showing up for the right stuff, the next day you're not. So it's a bit of an ongoing battle, but trying to understand if you're showing up for the stuff that you think you want to be showing up for. Are you getting clicks for the terms that we talked about earlier? Like, landscape design company near me, or landscape construction company near me? Or are you getting all your clicks on landscape design ideas?
Or Dave Smith, some random person you never met.
Seen it. I've seen it. $36 click. It's just crazy. So, what are you showing up for, and what are you paying? What are you paying Google for if you are running Google ads? You might not be thrilled with what you're paying for, and you might be really happy. But that's another piece of inspection that's worthwhile.
Yeah, that's cool. I think something too that you've kind of said the entire time without saying it, but it's been like essentially the foundation which you've been talking about, everything that we're helping people with and what we're trying to accomplish as a company. But it's like, is there a clear goal?
Sure. Yeah.
And there might have been at the beginning, but it's not necessarily reinforced and brought up on a regular basis. Or maybe it has been, but you as the person paying for marketing support and services to generate a result don't necessarily know what the goal is. And we see it all the time. Like, we couldn't be more upfront with like what your cost per lead is going to look like. And then we say in your first year, it's either a 4 or 5 to 1 ratio, depending on how well you've marketed in the previous years. So if your cost per lead is going to be like $250, well, it's going to be $1,000 to get a quote in the first year. So we say 4 to 1 ratio. We say it up front. We say it every month. And still some people like miss the fact that that is the whole point of this thing. Because really, you're running a business. You want to make sure you have enough customers, that your team's booked out, that you're making money, you're working with, bank, finance, you're doing all the things, training, whatever. But I think the idea of like, essentially the entire conversation we've had today is around expectation setting for a good relationship. And like, what is the goal? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? And brand visibility, community visibility, in our experience, writing checks for that gets old pretty quick. So I think getting clear on what the goal is would be really helpful. So then I guess just as a final note, we're going to do a lot more of these episodes. So if you like this one, you can tune into more coming. But if you were to speak to, a couple hundred landscape entrepreneurs, and you want to let them know something based on what you've been experiencing this year and last, what would you say they might want to hear?
Big question. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things, but like the thing that comes to my mind the most is like stay in market. People are looking. Like, I see leads in our system every single day, like, in our full system, like tens of thousands a month. So there's no doubt that people are looking. And so what we're hearing a lot, we're still seeing a lot of lead flow. We're having, people are having a little bit harder time closing deals depending on the company. But the demand is still out there, and it might be shrinking a little bit, but there's an opportunity to be ahead of your competition and to capture the demand that exists. So I think, like, not like with us or anybody, like, and make sure that you're continuing to invest in marketing, especially if it's going to be in a softer market, because there's still a lot of opportunity out there. And if you stop investing, I feel like you're definitely not going to capture it. And try to build as much transparency in your data as you can, so you can understand what's working and what's not. Like, if you don't have full transparency on like what's working for you right now, I just really think that that's a place to start, is to understand what's working, and then stay in market.
Yeah, well, the last thing you want to do is turn something off that's working.
Yeah, it's it's a, like, in ads specifically, it's a bit of a, I don't want to say a death sentence, that's extreme, but it can like really hinder trying to get back to that point. We had that happen with a client last month where they were like getting a bunch of spam leads, and they're like, oh, we should do this, and we like pause this one campaign, and then like, oh, the leads, like the good leads are starting to go away, and we're like, oh, we probably shouldn't have paused that campaign. We probably should have kept it running, because it's hard to build that momentum back. Like, we're essentially dealing with a machine when you think about an algorithm that Google runs off of, and that we're trying to like train to give things our way instead of somebody else's way, because we're all bidding to try to get this traffic that's out there. So turning to zero can really impact Google's liking of you, for lack of a better term. So is, trying to, like, if turning something off that could be working could be really impactful when it comes to lead flow and sales.
Cool. And then last one, a resource, an author, a speaker, a video that you have been inspired by over your years that you might want someone to check out?
Well, my top of mind right now will probably be similar to yours. Like, we're very deep into everything to do with Alex Hormozi. So he's got a couple books, $100 million offers, $100 million leads. We're learning about their process, for us as ourselves, from a marketing standpoint, but also what we can do to bring it to our clients and how we can simplify at the same token, building like very robust marketing strategies that can work for us and for our clients. But I just think that there's, even though the books are called $100 million offers and $100 million leads, and they sound like more marketing focused, there's just oodle, like, however many books, like hundreds of business books we've read over the years, like value for minute listening. I listen to all my books instead of read, so I'm on Audible to listen to all my stuff. But more value for minute than anything I've ever listened to. So anything from Alex Hormozi, like whether it's his podcast, The Game, or the books, you can find them for free on Spotify too, or you buy them on Audible for like $6. I just think that there's tons of value, no matter which stage of the entrepreneurial journey you're in, if you're listening to that stuff.
Beauty. Love it. Totally agree. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm on like round 7 right now of listening to $100 million leads and round 4 of offers.
I just don't even want to listen to anything else. I'm just like, why would I? I'm just going to keep listening to this until I feel like we've got it, nailed down.
It's like 3 to 5 takeaways for every 30 minutes every single time.
Yeah, it's just chock full of, like actionable, meaningful take. It's almost too much. It's hard to digest it because there's just so much coming at you. So, but it's still obviously very worthwhile. And just trying to find, the nuggets that you want to implement. Like for us, it's like because there's so much. Sticking to the stuff that's going to make the most impact first.
Sweet, buddy. Someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Best way is probably just to email me, paul@intrigueme.ca. And if you're ever interested, you can go to intriguemedia.com/track if you're interested in the tracking tool. We'll happily set you up and get you trialed for it, just so you can kind of see the transparency. I'm happy to chat with anybody individually if anyone's interested.
Rock and roll. Thanks, Paulie, for doing this.
Roberto, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to doing some more with you.
Good to see everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the I Am Landscape Growth Podcast. If you're listening to this and you're under $1 million in revenue, we have a roadmap just for you. It's all about going from 0 to $1 million as a landscape business. It's called the $1 Million Landscape Growth Strategy Roadmap. You can get it for free, absolutely no strings attached, at intriguemedia.com/roadmap. We work with hundreds of landscapers, we've interviewed thousands, and we've compiled all the foundational skills required, tactics and strategies to go from 0 to $1 million. It's broken down into 5 simple principles that we've compiled from all the people that are the best in the industry, as well as sharing, stories from our own journey getting to $1 million at Intrigue. And so if you're interested and you want to check it out, intriguemedia.com/roadmap, and then you'll get the 0 to $1 million landscape growth strategy that'll help get you over $1 million. At the end of the day, getting to $1 million is kind of on your shoulders as an entrepreneur. We work with some people under $1 million, but for the most part, our clients are over $1 million in revenue. So we're trying to do whatever we can to help people get there. And then once you get there, if you're looking for some more help, we want to get to 5 or 10, then that's kind of where we come in. We can generate you a bunch of awesome leads. But until then, if you're trying to get over that $1 million hump, check out intrimedia.com/roadmap. You can grab it, download it right now. It's completely free. Hope it helps.